The present video is regarding the regulatory deficiencies and their responses. So welcome to the video on understanding deficiency response letters. Once the product is filed or registered or application is completed with the regulatory agencies, the application is reviewed and then the regulatory authorities ask some questions or they provide their comments for the deficiencies and for the requirements, and this communication is done through the letters. So these may be the response letters, these may be the deficiency letters, or these may be the request for the additional information. For the USFDA, the deficiency response letters are given for the products as IR or information request, you can say, then DRL and CRL. So DRL means deficiency or discipline response, IR is information request, and CRL is complete response. DRL is discipline review letter, IR is information request, and CRL is the complete response letter. FDA provide their requirements or communicate the deficiencies in the drug product application through these three letters. First is IR, second is DRL, third one is CRL. And through these letters or request for the informations, the USFDA clarify their review process. They highlight the issues and ensure the compliance for the safety and efficacy. First is information request, IR. It is given during the review, and the purpose of IR or information request is to get the additional information or clarification needed by a specific discipline which is reviewing the application. The IR can be issued by any point of time during the review cycle, and the if you get the IR, that doesn't mean the review is stopped. So the impact of IR is like it doesn't stop the review clock unless it is a major amendment. And key focus of IR is to address the specific or limited questions or data gaps. For example, at the time of filing, you have 6 month stability data, and during review after 3 months, for example, I am saying during that period, if the additional information is asked for the stability data, then you can provide that stability data through the information request response. The reviewer may ask you the information to go ahead with the review. Sometimes, depending on to the stability data, through the information they may ask regarding specific procedure, they may ask regarding tightening of the dissolution limits or tightening of any impurity limit. So that is done through the information request. Sometimes they ask the additional information, or sometimes the response for specific question. This is the IR. Then DRL, that is discipline review letter. The purpose of this DRL is to convey the discipline's preliminary assessment of potential deficiencies. Timing for DRL is after a discipline completes its initial review. Impact is early notification of issues. Review clock continues. Then scope of DRL is chemistry, manufacturing and control, that is CMC, bioequivalence, labeling, clinical and some others. And goal is to allow early engagement and corrective planning. So after IR it is DRL. The review doesn't stop, review goes on. The DRL may be regarding CMC, bioequivalence, labeling, clinicals and some other requirements. Then complete response letter. So it is a formal notice that the application cannot be approved in its current form. It is issued at the end, at the conclusion of the review cycle. Earlier two, that is IR and DRL, these are not these are not denoting you the completion of the review cycle. But once CRL is received, that means the review cycle is completed. Impact of CRL is ends current review cycle, resubmission requires or required. Scope, all deficiencies across discipline must be addressed before approval. So as discipline review, a letter is from specific discipline like bioequivalence or labeling department or clinical. Complete response letter includes all the comments or all the deficiencies from all the disciplines. Outcome of CRL is resubmission begins a new review cycle. So if you get CRL, that means one cycle is completed and all the data or all the requirements are compiled and asked. Sometimes if you comply to the IR, comply to the DRL, those will not be captured in the CRL. Sometimes if the reviewer find that the response to the IR, response to the DRL is not sufficient, they may include this in the complete response letter. So here I have made a table to make you understand about the three requests or three letters. First is information request IR. It is mid review cycle. DRL, it is after single discipline review, and CRL, it is end of the entire review cycle. Scope of IR is specific information requested. For DRL, it is preliminary deficiencies by the discipline, and CRL, it is all deficiencies across the disciplines. Then IR does not stop the clock, DRL does not stop the clock, and CRL, that means end review cycle or the cycle is ended. Status of IR is request for the information. DRL, it is early notice of potential issues, for example in bioequivalence, CMC. Then CRL means formal and final notice for the deficiencies or requirements by the USFDA. Now responding the DRLs. So early engagement, coordinate internal teams immediately for the DRL. Detailed responses, provide complete discipline specific answers with supporting data. Proactive communication, seek FDA clarification if needed. And goal of response to the DRL is to resolve issues efficiently to speed up the approval. Responding to IR, so timely response, avoid review delays, then answer only the requested information. Generally, whatever the required information is there or whatever the question is asked, provide that only. Then anticipate questions, prepare data proactively to expedite the response. And goal of responding to IRs is to facilitate smooth continuation of the review process. But if you fail to provide the complete response to the IRs, it doesn't mean that the review process is stopped. It will continue, and whatever the gaps are there or deficiencies are there, those will be captured in the complete response. Then responding to the CRLs. So once you get the CRL, That means the review cycle is stopped and final deficiency letter is given. So comprehensive analysis required, understand all the deficiencies fully, prioritize the issues by focusing on critical areas like CMC and bioequivalence, consult the FDA, seek meetings for complex deficiencies, or you can ask them for the guidelines or guidances for providing the deficiency response for the complex questions or complex requirements. Resubmission strategy. So ensure all the issues are addressed completely before resubmitting. Otherwise, it will once again come in the request. Common pitfalls for getting the request or deficiency letters is incomplete responses, lack of supporting data, overloading with unnecessary information, delayed submission. Consequences for this will be additional queries, prolonged review will be there, and it will delay the approval. How to do the best responses? What are the best practices for smooth NDA approval or smooth generic product approval? Cross-functional collaboration, because the product approval requires the data from different disciplines like regulatory, CMC, clinical teams, bioequivalence teams. Then maintain strong regulatory intelligence and pre-submission risk assessment, continuous improvement after each response. Engage proactively with the FDA for complex issues. Many of the times it can be possible or it should be done. Like once you have done the filing, you can check the probable questions which might be asked and you can get ready for that. So it is a best practice that after application, after filing or registration, go through the product and understand the probable deficiencies or would be deficiencies. Then conclusion, effective responses will reduce the product approval delay and will ensure the smoother approvals. Thorough understanding of IR, DRL and CRL is required to avoid the common pitfalls and implement the best practices and strategic planning. Then learn from the old IRs, old DRLs, old CRLs, and if these products and queries are similar, you can make some proactive approaches. You can do some risk assessment and get ready. So the outcome of best practices will be faster approval, minimize regulatory hurdles, and the compliance will be better. It will save the time of the organization and also of the FDA. So working with the FDA deficiency letters is a key part for getting the generic products approved from the US FDA. The deficiency letters will be in the form of information request, discipline review, and complete response. So these communications highlight that the needs to be addressed in your NDA or generic product. Response to the deficiencies is required to be thorough with clear data and proactive communication, which can save your time and it will avoid the delay in the product approval. Planning your response carefully and avoiding common mistakes makes the whole approval process smoother. Then, being prepared does not just help with compliance, it also builds trust and credibility in the pharmaceutical industry. So, if you are getting repeatedly the same queries, that means you need to improve through the application or data generation, or you need to make some uh, uh, policies or quality compliance SOPs, or you need to get training, or you need to be ready with the would be or probable queries. For example, if the information is asked regarding the additional data, so you should be ready with some data. You should be ready with the understanding about the stability data and how much tightening can be done for the specs, or which will be your would be query for the dissolution specification, for example, and based on that you can go ahead. So this is the information for the regulatory query responses. I hope this video will help you to understand these terms and the activities. Thank you.